Welcome to Web Handling. My name is Dave Roysam. I am super excited to continue our new mini-series based on our new must-have Web Handling Handbook. We will continue the wrinkling theme from the last 4 weeks. In this clip, we will introduce the what, when, where, and why of spreading. Knowing these will help you reduce waste, delay, and customer complaints related to wrinkling and other web handling issues that we will list in the next slide. I know your time is precious, so let's get started. There are many reasons that you may wish to include a spreader on your web machine. The chief among them is to prevent wrinkles. However, there are at least a half a dozen totally different applications where a spreader might be helpful. Each application would have a different list of eligible spreading devices. To complicate the picture, an application for preventing wrinkles on the one hand and another for separating lanes after slitting on the other hand, for example, would require a different spreader sizing, even if the spreader type and the web's tension and the web machine were identical. The devil is, as the saying goes, in the details. Once we are quite clear about the why of spreading, such as preventing wrinkles in an ordinary web span instead of, say, reducing wrinkles that tend to occur immediately after a coater or oven, we are then ready to decide if we actually should include a spreader. Economics is required to answer the question if we should use a spreader. The first thing to consider, of course, is the various costs. These costs include, obviously, initial purchase, the nuisance of having a bigger machine footprint, and the long-term maintenance and operation costs of an extra element. These costs would be incurred with any and every element on the line, so there's nothing new here. However, with spreading in particular, there is the great risk of inappropriate application. Some webs don't need to or even can't be spread at all. Worse yet, using the wrong type, the wrong size, or putting it in the wrong location, or inattention to any of the many important details could actually cause the spreader to generate wrinkles. It is far easier for a spreader to make a wrinkle than to make it go away. Let me repeat. It is actually far easier for a spreader to make a wrinkle than to make it go away. Let me summarize my own experiences by saying that most spreaders I see are doing nothing useful or making the problems worse than they need to be. Additional challenges on the details of spreading are seen if the applications vary widely on a single machine. Examples here would be running low modulus and high modulus in the same web span, or cutting 2 rolls out on a slitter one day and then 20 the next. If we could even cover that range, it would probably be with one of the rare spreaders that has variable spreading power. Defining and measuring spreading power and how it can be altered is detailed in our text. Another option is to size the spreader for one extreme and hope for the best on the other extreme. Alternatively, you could lay out the web run during the design stage to have a web run that allows bypassing a spreader for certain grades, such as foil as one example, and using it for others, such as when film is run on the same section. The wear is usually the easiest, especially if the spreader is being applied to help prevent wrinkles. It is a 4-step process. First, we identify the specific type of wrinkling that we are hoping to prevent. There we are guided by much experience and much science, such as we introduced in the Web501.11 series and many other places listed at the end of this clip. Next, once the specific root cause has been identified for that specific wrinkle we are working on, we can then consider reducing that specific root cause insult to the extent possible. For example, if the in-plane roller misalignment subcase of the diagonal wrinkle major case, we would prefer to align those specific rollers rather than to encumber our machine with an additional spreading element, even if it might help in that case. However, in some cases, the root cause is the very application that enables our product. Examples here would include coating or heating. Reducing those root cause insults would handicap the product line. As a last resort, we would include spreaders in lieu of reducing coating weight, or even if shutting off the coater as an example. The third step is to choose the spreader type and the sizing details related to that application and that spreader type. Finally, after all of those details have been worked out, we get to the super simple where for the spreader location. In regard to preventing wrinkles, the spreader should be located at or immediately after the location where that specific type of wrinkle would otherwise tend to occur. In other words, one roller upstream is too early and no help is likely, while 2 rollers downstream may well be too late to help much, if at all. After we've done all of that application homework, we still have some more work to do. That is to select which spreader would be best for that specific application. There are about a dozen types listed here in approximate order of weakest to strongest. Note, however, bigger is not necessarily better. That is one of the biggest application mistakes that leads to wrinkling on the spreader instead of wrinkling reduction on the spreader. Note that some applications, such as film, may have several good candidates, while others, such as paper, will have far fewer, and some, such as foil, may only have one or none. In those cases where several spreader types might work, think again thin flexible film, you may want to try a couple of spreader types to find out which is better, faster, and cheaper. Those with fewer choices, think paper. You need to be super careful about the application and sizing details in order to increase the odds of success as defined by less wrinkles instead of more wrinkles. There are many geometric constraints for each spreader type related to web span, wrap angle, and other considerations that strongly affect web machine path layout at the machine design stage and, of course, ultimately, the success of the spreader. These are summarized in Table 10.6 from our must-have Web Handling Handbook. However, these and other application details and constraints cannot be discussed here and need not be discussed here because they are well covered in the dozens of pages of text that accompanies this general chart. To illustrate the fine level of detail required to make spreaders perform at their best, consider this single example of a spreader type, the concave roller. While there are at least 3 ways to construct this specific spreader type, one common place to begin is to tape rollers in a very, very specific way for a very, very specific purpose. In this case, again, to help prevent wrinkles instead of, say, increasing traction. There are at least a dozen steps to getting the best performance with this seemingly simple technique of taping an idler roller, most of which are outlined here. However, there is much, much more to know, such as the mechanics of how this spreader works and the failure mechanisms of this spreader type. Knowing the failure modes of each spreader type will help us with the design selection and design details and troubleshooting. All of these are needed to round out the user's understanding and get the most from their spreading efforts. We hope you have enjoyed this introduction to spreader types and applications. We hope that these inspire, if not also help you in your wrinkle reduction efforts or for whatever other specific purpose for which you use your spreaders. Obviously, we can't cover the large area of spreading in this short clip, nor do we need to, because spreading is one of the best documented areas of web handling. Those who want to check out the original sources may wish to enter spread into the free and easy Roysum Library database search tool by APITTA. Here you will find more than 100 articles, columns, conference papers, theses, and the like on the subject. Indeed, my roommate and colleague, Ron Delahousse, in the early days of the Web Handling Research Center, wrote and defended his PhD thesis on the concave and bowed roller spreaders. However, formal training will make application selection and troubleshooting much faster and much surer than sorting through 100 articles. Here, there is no better training than my award-winning and trademarked Web 101 school that has been taken by 5,000 students just like you. It is available in your plant, in public venues, and as video on demand through AIMCAL, APITTA, and TAPPI. Here you will find almost everything you need to know in 2 hours on wrinkling and another hour and a half on the subject of spreading. Finally, that and much, much more can be found in 100 pages in the Web Handling Handbook. However, don't be intimidated because each chapter begins at the most basic level, something that a lead operator should be able to easily follow, and then proceeds in steps to the latest research on the subject. Thank you so very much for joining me in this mini-series showcasing some of the crown jewels of our new book. Stay tuned for the next clip where we will continue our tour of the book with an introduction to winding. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, let me know in the comment section below. If you found anything interesting or useful here, please like and share with a colleague who is struggling unnecessarily with wrinkles or spreaders. See you next time.